The Raiders-Broncos rivalry returns to Allegiant. Can the Raiders' running game finally take off? Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis gives his take, and what to expect in Game 2 from the Raiders' new-look offense under Scott Turner. CBS's Kevin Harlan stops by. Plus, he always keeps it a buck. Raider Nation Radio's Q Myers breaks down the Raiders' defense. It's all ahead. The Silver and Black Show starts now. Welcome into the Silver and Black Show. I'm Amber Theoharis. The Raiders look to stop a 6-game skid against the team who started it back on October 6th. The Broncos are coming into the division rivalry fresh off a blowout win over the Falcons. Their rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, who was selected exactly one spot ahead of Brock Bowers in the draft, just received back-to-back Rookie of the Week honors. Now, as for Bowers, he was up for Rookie of the Week after that 126-yard game against the Dolphins. Both players assuring us that this age-old division rivalry between the Raiders and the Broncos will feature top-tier talent for many, many years to come. And he was once a rookie back in the day out of Georgia. He is now a Hall of Famer. Our very first guest, Terrell Davis, joining us to talk about the matchup. What's going on, TD? It's good to see you.
What's going on, Amber? Good to see you. A long time no see.
I know. Talking football like the old days. Hey, look, you played in those Broncos-Raiders rivalries back in the day. Do you have any great memories from some of those matchups? What stands out to you?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's, I go back to the days of Mike Shanahan where, he hated the Raiders, man. And so when he hated the Raiders, it made us hate the Raiders. And I never, really got into the rivalry like that until I played for the Broncos. But man, it was one where that week it felt like it was a Super Bowl. The way we prepared for the Raiders, the way we, attention to detail. And I do go back to my rookie year and talking about that game. It was a Monday night game, first Monday night game I'd ever played in. And I just told you how Mike made it seem like it was a Super Bowl. And it put so much pressure on me as a rookie that I had the worst game I'd ever had. Like it was by far the worst game. I was doing stupid stuff like, missed assignments, going through that game and thinking, all right, you know what? I know what big games feel like and I can't never do that again. So that was kind of a lesson for me not to make the games bigger than what they were. But certainly understanding that the Raiders, when they're on the schedule and we were playing them, you're going to get the best from the Broncos, man. So
let's talk a little bit about what you've seen, from this Raiders team. Have you had a chance to check them out? And what are your thoughts on what's going on? It's obviously a bit of a tough season for the Raiders.
Yeah, I have not checked them out a lot. I saw them when they came and played us, and I can't remember what week it was. But that game was trending in the wrong direction for Broncos fans. And you get the nice pick six right there from Patrick Surtain, which really changed the game because, the Broncos at that point were a team that didn't have the confidence, and you knew the streak was on the line. You knew that you lost to the Raiders, I believe, 7 or 8 in a row. And they're going in to score a touchdown. I believe the score was was it 10-0 at the time?
It was 10-3. It was 10-3.
10-3. There you go, 10-3. And that could have been, like a 17-3 game. Who knows what the outcome would have been? But then, we had the big play to turn things around, ultimately winning that game. But what I've seen just from kind of the outside is that, the Raiders have been a team the last year or two that has been void of a quarterback. And they've tried to build other places to sort of, I guess, make up for that. And that's just hasn't been a strong point for this team. And, I think right now the confidence of where they are, it can't be very high at this point. You're basically a team that's struggling every year to put points on the board offensively. And, defense used to be pretty good, but they're also having some vulnerabilities on that side as well.
Scott Turner is in charge of the Raiders offense, and they were able to get Michael Mayer back. So with Brock Bowers, they were playing 12 personnel. Finally, they could have 2 tight ends. That's what they wanted to do. And Brock Bowers has this huge game. But how do you think a scheme like that matches up with this Broncos defense that's top 3 right now in the NFL?
Well, that's the great thing. Well, that's the good thing about Broncos defense. They can defend the run. They're really good at that. They can defend the pass. They have a lot of guys who you might say they're not big name players. And Vance Joseph has done a tremendous job defensively of making sure that you have to work for everything. You don't see big chunk plays with this team. If you want to try to sustain a drive, I mean, good luck with that, because that's just hard to do against this defense. And I'm sure that's what the Raiders want to do. They want to be able to run the ball, like you said, 12 personnel, one back, two tight ends, and kind of just pound the ball down your throat. Denver's defense can defend that. They're really, really good. I mean, they got some, when you look at him, like, these are not like high, yeah, I mean, I say the high paid, but I would say like the big name players that you normally see on really good defenses. And I think that's probably the good thing about them, is that they all know that they're really good. They play well together. They're an unselfish bunch. They play with a lot of excitement. They don't give you anything, and they don't have a lot of busted assignments. And that's what I like about this team. So, and now you have an offense that's waking up, that's starting to put points on the board with this defense. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for anybody, especially this Raiders team, to put a lot of points on the board. And if they play keep away, that's probably the best bet. But even that is going to be challenging.
Yeah, so sustaining drives is probably important, and usually, like you said, that means running the ball. Problem with the Raiders, they have really struggled to run the ball this year, despite Antonio Pierce wanting to be kind of that ground and pound type of a team. It just hasn't happened. I'm sure you watched Zamir White, fellow Bulldog at Georgia. He was a beast there, hasn't been able to get anything going. Alexander Madison hasn't really been able to get anything going. When you have talented backs like that, and they're not able to run the ball, usually what is the issue?
Well, it starts, I mean, I think it could be a few things, especially if the quarterback, if the scheme is not allowing breathing room up front, meaning if you're not threatening anybody in this, whether it's intermediate passing or deep passes, and teams are able to just deploy assets up front to stop you, that's a hard way to make a living. And it really is, So a lot of times, you're saying you have to kind of run people into, to bringing people into the box where you can throw it, or you have to throw it enough to where you space people out and it allows you to run it. And you got to be really good at both. You got to have two, I call it being able to swing with both punches. And if you think, all right, we're just going to commit to the run and, run the ball when we want to at will without threatening anything deep, again, that is a hard way to make a living. And the really good teams are able to balance all that out, Amber. And you know that, like, even with play action passes, where you're able to suck people up and then you got guys running free in zones. But that's earned. That's earned because you gotta run the ball. And then people say, all right, we have to commit to that, stopping that now. You can throw the football. So it's always a combination with all that. I've always found out too, the better I ran, the better the guys up front blocked. And the better they blocked, the better I ran.
Yeah, so, it's chicken and egg. It's kind of the chicken and egg theory, that's for sure.
That's exactly what it is.
Before we talk about the Broncos, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your career back in 1998, you had to transition from a Hall of Famer quarterback in John Elway to Brian Griese, correct? He took over. Correct. He was a rookie that year. The Raiders could be facing something like that. People already looking forward to the draft, possibly taking a young quarterback. What is the progression of an offense like for that first year under a rookie quarterback?
It depends. Sometimes the curve, it's short. Sometimes it's long, and you go in there with the approach that we know we've got to do more to help the rookie out. And we can't ask a lot of him at this point. Like, eventually he'll be good. And that's what it was with Griese, was we try to say, let's not put everything on his plate. If he throws a ball, it doesn't have to be a perfect ball. You got to make a catch. Rod Ed, you got to make a catch for him. A lot of times he's not going to make the proper call. Maybe there's a check that he has to make, and maybe the check is not correct. You got to overcome some of those mistakes. And you got to definitely build the confidence of a young quarterback. And I always give the analogy of like a pie baking in the oven, man. That's what a rookie is. He's a pie. He's a half-baked pie, and he's baking. And some cook at a different temperature, and the pie is ready. And sometimes there's too much heat, and you burn the pie, you burn the crust, and the inside is not ready. But it's really trying to figure out who that individual is and give them all the assets that's possible. But again, to me, it's going to fall mostly on people around him to nurture him in a way where he's You meet him where he is and bring him along slowly until he can take over. That's really the progression for me.
Well, you experienced it. Let's go back to the current Broncos right now. Bo Nix just got back-to-back Rookie of the Week honors. He's baking at the right speed, I guess you could say, at the maybe even accelerated speed. Sean Payton, he wants to do certain things with his offenses. We've watched him with the Saints. We've watched him here. How can Patrick Graham and the Raiders defense take advantage of knowing, what Bo Nix is trying to do, what Sean Payton is trying to do?
See, that's the tough part, man, because Bo Nix, the thing he's really good at is he doesn't give the ball away. If you notice that he has not turned the ball over in a while. I mean, he's been really, really just conscious of that. But he's also still making plays. And typically, when you have a quarterback that's making a lot of plays, you see opportunities where you can take the ball away from him. And I don't see that with Bo. When the play's not there, he's not just forcing it in there. He's running the ball. And so that's allowing us to move the chain, to take a negative play and at least make it a positive play. At the minimum, it's no gain. But he is managing the game as best. I didn't think he would be doing this right now. But when you watch him, he is starting to look like he is a veteran. So with him, they do a really good job of, and I said this, that Sean Payton has met Bo where he was, and I know Sean wants to get back and throw the ball. He wants to, that's his game, the old Drew Brees looking quarterback. But Sean had to get to more of the, all right, let's do some RPOs, let's do some read options, let's do play action, let's do movement passes until Bo gets comfortable. And we're seeing that now. Now you can implement and throw in a little bit more drop back passes with all the movement plays, because now he's starting to see it better. Early in the season, I was watching him, and he'd drop back, and he'd feel some pressure. And it wouldn't even be real pressure, and he would bail out of the pocket, or he'd run. He'd bail out the back instead of climbing through the pocket. Now you're starting to see him more. He feels it. He knows it's there, but he's not reacting to it. And that, to me, is a sign of a guy who's maturing really fast. He's seeing a lot of he can see the reads really well. He's throwing on time now. So, yeah, Amber, I think you guys are getting Bo at a bad time. I think you're getting him at a...
we all just watched the Mike Tyson fight, and Mike Tyson's famous quote is, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and Max Crosby is going to be coming off the edge there. So let's see how the rookie does after Max punches him in the mouth. I have one last question before I let you go. If you're such a great football mind, you've been around the best of the best, especially as GMs, talent evaluators. If you were the Raiders GM and you had to do one thing to start to fix this team and move the franchise forward in 2025, what would you do?
Wow, Amber, you asked me that question.
Well, you spoke about the quarterback, so I thought maybe that's where you would start.
Yeah, because that's what I know from looking at them on the outside, outside looking in. I don't have it. I don't see it from the same perspective you have it. But yeah, I guess that would be it. I mean, it's to me the obvious piece that most teams need to fix is that. It's like you got to have that. You have to have that guy that you trust, that you are like, all right, this is our guy. And I don't see that. I see there's some journeymen or guys who they look serviceable and they come in, they're trying to, do something to the franchise. Jimmy G came in there a few years ago where it's like, all right, well, who's your guy there? Like, who's the guy? Is it McGardo? Is it Minshew? Is he the guy, or is he just somebody as a placeholder? Like, figure that out before we try to build around it. That's what I would probably focus on, would be that quarterback, obviously.
All right, well, TD, I appreciate your time. I can confirm that you did not gain the favor of any more Raider fans with your analysis today. Thanks for coming into enemy territory, man. Thanks for coming into enemy territory. We appreciate your perspective and your time. It's good to see you.
You too, Amber. Have a good one.
Coming up, the man with the magical voice, Kevin Harlan of CBS, joins the show as we continue to get you ready for Broncos Raiders this Sunday.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I'm on the fleeting seconds flight. I pray to the coming wind. And timelines never stood around for me. I've loved every sky I've ever seen.
Taste is not an option. Taste is everything. 1800, the world's most awarded tequila.
In 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered internet, you can do brilliant things.
Exit approaching.
Like upload your voice to Dad's GPS in no time flat.
And I miss you, Daddy. Happy birthday.
Get multi-gig download speeds powered by fiber. Upgrade your internet today with Cox, the nation's fastest internet provider. Limited availability in select areas.
The Silver and Black Show is brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. 1800 Tequila, official partner of the Raiders. Taste is everything. Please drink responsibly. And by Allegiant, the official airline of the Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights, only at Allegiant.com. Welcome back. Scott Turner's new look offense showed signs of life out of the bye, but this week they face a top 3 defense when the Broncos come to town. The man who will be calling the game for CBS, I think he's the best voice in the business, Kevin Harlan, joins the show to talk about it. And Kevin, it's so great to see you, first of all. How you doing?
Thank you, Amber. I'm doing great, and especially now that we have a chance to visit. Hope you're doing well, and looking forward to coming to Las Vegas this weekend and maybe get a little momentum for those Raiders against a very difficult Denver team. We saw them 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs at Arrowhead. We did that game, and Nix is nothing like he was, the rookie quarterback for the Broncos. This is a solid team, very much in the playoff conversation in the AFC. They'll be difficult.
And the Raiders are going to look to slow them, try to slow them down and get their feet under them. What is the number one thing that you're going to be looking for early on as you're calling this game in the first quarter?
Well, it'd be great if the Raiders could run the ball, right? I mean, that is something that I think would best epitomize what Antonio is all about, a consistent run game. But you got a young offensive line, and you've got changes now with a new interim offensive line coach, new coordinator, acting interim coordinator. You know, there's a lot of change for a team trying to get some traction. It's very difficult. And you don't want your quarterback throwing 43 times a game like Gardner had to do in Miami. So getting that running game going would be huge. The problem is the Broncos played a pretty good run team in Atlanta last week and held one of the best running backs in the NFC, Bijan Robinson, and that running attack to like 50 yards. So they have really keyed on the run. They did a good job stopping the run of the Chiefs 2 weeks ago at Arrowhead that we saw. And so getting that running game going is a priority for the Raiders and something that the Broncos, at least right now, are showing they are very good at.
Like you said, you had a chance to call the Chiefs-Raiders game, so you saw what the Raiders' offense looked like before the bye. Then you have a chance to review the film against the Dolphins this week as you prepare for the game under Scott Turner and Norv Turner. Did you see anything different under the Turners that stood out to you in the offense?
Well, clearly there are going to be some different concepts and schemes that they're going to put in there, and you can't do it in 1 week. You can't do it in 2. That's why you've got training camp and an off season and things to get ready for the regular season. This is a very difficult thing for the Turners to go through, as it is for the team. However, you never know when that match is going to strike and how you can ignite something under the offense. And as each week goes on, they learn a little bit more about what they need to do and how they need to do it. So it's a work in progress for sure. But I never say in this league that the difference between a team like the Broncos on the rise and some of the elite and teams that are just clawing to get to that level, it's so thin. Mm-hmm. And it's a play here, a turnover there, getting a first down, sustaining a drive. Sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. Now, listen, as we know, the Raiders gave the Chiefs a couple, a very tough game out in Las Vegas not too long ago, a month ago. So there's no doubt that they know the Broncos as an opponent. They're familiar with their personnel. And when you've got that familiarity, anything can happen. So I'm very open-minded about what could happen on Sunday. We saw the Raiders give the Chiefs a difficult time a month ago, as I said. There's no reason they can't do the same thing against Denver this weekend, even with the momentum the Broncos have coming into the game.
Yeah, and people forget this was a 5-point game against the Dolphins and late in the fourth quarter, and then they blew it open at the end, so it was closer than it looked. One highlight this season has been Brock Bowers, the rookie, and he was targeted 16 times last week under Scott Turner. He caught 13 of them. Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph is definitely going to know what's coming. Like, he knows it's going to Brock Bowers, but does it even matter because he's that much of a mismatch?
Well, and the thing is, an excellent point, but Bowers is playing all over the field. He's playing every position, and sometimes he's wide. When you take a tight end and put him wide like they do in San Francisco with Kittle and they do in Kansas City with Kelsey, you create all kinds of weird mismatches, and the defense has got to respond. And from play to play, you don't know where he's going to be. So that's part of the genius in what that offense is going through, and a great credit to Bowers that he knows each of these positions so well, receiver and tight end responsibilities. So that's a great place to begin. Listen, he's healthy, he's young, he's tracking for a historic rookie record for tight end receiving and yards. His yards after catch are top 10 in the NFL. I mean, you can do it all. If you've only got one horse to ride, get on the horse and ride him. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes by riding a guy like that, it opens up opportunities for Tucker or for the running game or for who knows who. So you go with your strength. You dare them to try to figure it out. Things will tilt toward Brock and where he's positioned, but it could open up opportunities for others, and that's what the Raiders are clearly hoping for.
And Kevin, that's a really good point. But I almost could say the reverse, that one of the reasons that Brock Bowers does get the opportunity is because you have to respect Jacoby Myers. Is Jacoby Myers one of the more underrated receivers? Now, defensive coordinators will probably tell you a little different, but you just don't hear a lot about him. But everybody knows you have to account for him.
Well, we know he can throw it. We know he can catch it. We know he can run after the catch, and we know he can run the ball if he's going to get it on a sweep. No, he's that versatile piece. The couple with Bowers, you don't need that many. You only need 2 or 3 guys to completely mess up a defensive scheme. And who knows what a Bronco team that is experiencing this level of success for the first time in a long time, who knows how they're going to respond after that huge win over a good Atlanta team last week. You just don't know. They're in the division. They're on the road. They're indoors. I mean, there's a lot of things at play here. That's a great thing about the NFL. It is a week-to-week league. And sometimes a performance one week doesn't lead you to think they're going to do the same the next week. Even with the best teams in this league, the Baltimores and whatnot, you just don't know from week to week. There's a little more consistency. They've got more playmakers. There's a little bit more of a foundation, but still the league is so good on any given Sunday, anything can happen. But clearly Myers is one of those players they've got circled on their game plan. They've got to account for him every play.
The Broncos defense is very good, as we mentioned coming in. It's top 3. At times it's carried this team when Bo Nix was starting to come along. What do they do so well that Gardner Minshew especially and the Raiders need to prepare for?
Amber, they've got quality at all 3 levels. Their defensive line, they've added players there, and they're terrific. They really caused the Chiefs some problems. They got 2 rushing edge players, linebackers, however you want to classify them, and those 2 guys have been phenomenal. And then they've got Pat Surtain in the secondary, Patrick Surtain, and he has been great. They've got depth at safety. All 3 levels of that defense are terrific. They're relatively healthy, but they've got. I'd keep your eye on Benito 15 as an edge guy. He's one of the top rushers, sack men in the NFL. and he wears number 15. 99, Zach Allen. I'd keep a close eye on him. John Franklin Myers, a new addition to that line, has been great. Malcolm Roach on that line. Those three guys have been run stoppers, pocket pressure guys, and then they fill in with the back end of their defense. It really looks good. It's impressive. In a way, this has all kind of come together because Sean has made a priority of getting playmakers at those positions where you need them most. Edge rushers, shutdown corner, and a guy that can push the middle on that defensive line.
And it's interesting, the players that you said, Terrell Davis mentioned this before you on the show, they're not big-time names. They're not all pros. They're just playmakers that are really rising, especially right now. It probably means that Gardner Minshew will need to release the ball very quickly as they're spreading it out. They did that. They spread it out against the Dolphins. They weren't able to run the ball, only ran as a team for less than 60 yards. Can the Raiders win this game even if they're not able to get the run game going?
I'd like to think they could. You know, Minshew's pretty clever. Brock Bowers can do a lot. Myers is going to be in a position where you need to exploit his versatility. And you never know what you're going to get in the run game. I know that Madison is not trending well. They're banged up back there. But that's an opportunity for a younger player. And I'd like to think that they'll answer that charge. You know, when you go on the road in the NFL, it's always a different experience, even when you're in that division. So the Broncos are not infallible. They struggled to get out of the gates. They began 0-2. And I know they get the winning record right now, and they're the number 7 seed as we stand this weekend in the AFC. But this is still a team finding its way with the new voice and a new set of expectations because they are in that playoff position. So, and we have example after example after example in this NFL that even the week before Thanksgiving and beyond, teams can spin their seasons around. It may not mean that they're going to make the playoffs, but it could mean they've got great momentum going into the offseason. While it's tough for the Raiders to even think about the postseason, it isn't unrealistic to give them momentum after Thanksgiving or going into Thanksgiving and finishing off the season strong. I know they've got a high draft position as of now, and they've got to covet that. But I'd like to think that they've got some things in place which give them hope. And a win against a playoff team in your division would really be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, they've been taking teams close into the fourth quarter. They just need to finish and not give up a lot of points in the fourth quarter. One question about the Raiders defense before I let you go. How do they stop Bo Nix? This is a guy that back-to-back Rookie of the Week. He's really coming along now.
Well, they can disguise coverages, and that's always going to be something that a young quarterback's got to deal with. And Atlanta tried to do the same thing, too. Nix has got a lot of confidence, and he's got a tremendous mind. The game is slowing down for him. He's got the right kind of head coach in Sean Payton in his ear. He is forming his NFL vision, and there's no better coach to do that. I just think that they got a three-headed monster at running back. They're 3 to 4 deep at receiver. They don't have much at tight end, but it's adequate. And then defensively, we've talked about how at all 3 levels they're good. I sometimes with a rookie quarterback, you may see them revert to issues that plague all young quarterbacks. And Max off the edge will be a constant source of concern, and that may be good enough in terms of that. I haven't seen what Adam Butler has done the last couple games. Going into that Chiefs game a month ago, Amber, I thought he was playing as well as any interior lineman. He had a lot of tackles. He was pressuring up the middle. He seemed to be somebody that even Creed Humphrey, the all-pro center for the Chiefs, was struggling against. You mess up the middle of that pocket, it can cause a lot of damage, especially for a young quarterback. And then be clever in the back end with your linebackers and secondary. They've got the possibility with some of the kids they got back there. So, again, I don't look at a record in division games. I certainly don't look at the record when a good team goes into maybe a lesser team on the road in the division. And I'll go back to the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. They only won by 7 out there.
Yeah.
And they had great momentum. So Everything's on the table and right there. And the Raiders, even if it's not a postseason this year, they can certainly kind of capture what Antonio got at the end of last year when he took Josh's place, finish the season strong, get momentum into the offseason, and continue to build your brand, develop these young players, draft wisely, sign a couple free agents. So it can change like that in the league. And I know that's what the Raiders are kind of hoping for.
Kevin, I can safely say you are the most popular guest on today's edition of the Silver and Black Show, although beating Terrell Davis is not a hard feat. Not very popular when he came on. But we appreciate you, Kevin. Thanks for taking some time.
Amber, wonderful being on with you. We're friends off the air, and I love being on with you on the air, and I always love when our paths cross. So hopefully we got a couple more of these coming up this season, but thank you. And if I don't see you, a happy holiday to you and your family.
You as well, and I hope we see you soon. Thanks so much. We appreciate you, my friend. Coming up, if the Raiders are going to win games, they need to take the ball away. How can they do that? Raider Nation Radio's Q Myers is up next on the Silver and Black Show.
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I'm on the fleeting seconds flight. I pray to the coming wind. And time like snow never stood around for me. I love every sky I've
Oh, set me free. Chains ain't holding me. No time to sleep. The daylight's coming fast and it's counting on me.
In 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered internet, you can do brilliant things.
Exit approaching.
Like upload your voice to Dad's GPS in no time flat.
And I miss you, Daddy. Happy birthday.
Get multi-gig download speeds powered by fiber. Upgrade your internet today with Cox, the nation's fastest internet provider. Limited availability in select areas.
The Raiders defense struggled out of the bye as injuries and inexperience continue to be an issue. Sunday, they welcomed the Broncos, who have been finding their own groove with rookie quarterback Bo Nix. Raider Nation Radio's Q Myers is here to help us preview the matchup. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you, first of all, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Anytime I get to chop it up with you, talk some Raiders football, I'm good to go.
You can tell I'm so excited. I was about to get right into it. But the reason why I want to have you on Q is because you always keep it 100, like 100% real. And the defense has been an issue, and I listen to your shows, and I know you talk a lot about it. So first, let's start with what matchups will you be looking for early on to see if this Raiders defense is on point for this game?
I mean, it starts up front. It really does. The defensive line is going to have to get as much pressure as possible on Bo Nix. And the reason why I say it's going to start up front and get that pressure, he's in a groove right now where he's feeling comfortable. And that's the worst thing that could ever happen for the Raiders defense is for an opposing quarterback to come into their house and be comfortable. So Max Crosby always, they always call on Max to step up and make some big plays, but it's going to take more than Max. It really is. It's going to have to disrupt Bo Nix, and he's going to have to put the ball in harm's way a couple times. And if they're able to do that, then good things could happen. But Amber, as you know, this defense has been so riddled with injuries all season long, and the list gets longer and longer. And You know what I mean? It's so hard to rely on the usual suspects when the usual suspects are banged up and injured right now. So it's going to start up front with Max Crosby and crew, and they're going to have to get a lot of pressure on Bo Nix.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I spoke about inexperience a second ago. We have gotten to see a lot of young players, though, as a result of the injuries, and this could be a good thing because you're trying to evaluate for the future. Is there anyone that you have seen out there that you believe could be a staple of the Raiders' defense for years beyond 24?
You know, I've been looking at DeCam Richardson a lot, right? He's been forced into action when Jacorian Bennett went down and Jack Jones went down with a back injury. And he was the guy, Amber, that I identified back in Costa Mesa in training camp as a guy that fits the prototypical look. He almost had that Seattle Seahawk, that Legion of Boom look, where he's lengthy and he's fast and he can break up a lot of balls. But of course, he's a rookie. He's a fourth-round pick. So he's a guy that's going to need reps. And you've seen him get ramped up, 20 reps here, 25 reps here. And then a guy like JB, Jacorian Bennett, goes down in the first drive against Miami, and then it's okay, DCam, now it's really on you. And the funny thing is, and I guess it's not funny because you were talking about injuries, but I mentioned to Ricky Manning Jr., the cornerback coach in Costa Mesa, I said, hey, I like what I see from DCam early on. He said, yeah, we're going to need him sometime this year. I don't know when, but we're going to need him. And now all of a sudden you look and you fast forward to going into week 12, DCam Richardson's a guy that they're definitely going to need and to lean on.
Yeah, going to probably need him against the Broncos because Marcus Epps, we know, has been out. Nate Hobbs, Jack Jones, Jacorian Bennett all did not practice as of the taping of this show. So assess the secondary in general going into this game, along with the backups that are expected to be in this weekend.
Well, with Nate being out, that is such a problem for the Raiders, and I would love to see him get back and be able to play this week. It'd be huge because it's physicality. And then Jack Jones's ability to go get the ball. But the thing that's happened all season long is that the Raiders haven't been able to create turnovers. They get pressure to the quarterback, but when you think that the ball's going to be in the air and they're going to force a turnover, they've been very few and far in between, right? I mean, Jack Jones had a pick six against the Bengals, which was great, but that was his first pick six, his first interception of the season. And they just don't come up with those interceptions more times than not. And even Jacorian Bennett, who I believe was having a stellar season at his cornerback position, matter of fact, the best corner that the Raiders have had all season, in my opinion, has got some good PBUs, some pass breakups, but you want to see them turn the ball over and give it back to their offenses. So that's where my big concern is. Who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be the dude who knows, I need to make a play? Someone needs to make a play and get the ball back to the offense. Who's that guy going to be? When Nate's out, Jack is out, right? You got JB out. Now all of a sudden you're leaning on rookies that are just trying to get their feet under them, let alone go make a big play. So it's really hard to tell who can go make a play. Maybe you look at a guy in the back end like Isaiah Palomar, who just seems to be always around the ball as well.
Yeah, takeaways need to happen, but you know what needs to not happen is penalties and penalties on third down. I keep thinking of that Darnay Holmes penalty that kept the drive alive and leads to the Jonnu Smith touchdown. So especially getting off the field on third down. But let's talk about Tyree Wilson. This is a guy you talk a lot about, and slowly but surely, he is coming along. If you're watching, he is making some plays out there. What have you seen from him recently?
It's growth. It's just slow growth. And you'd like to see it faster, right? I mean, especially when you're selected as high as he was, number 7 overall, you want him to come out and be instant and be a star. And, we live in a microwave society, so I'm hungry, pop it in the microwave for 60 seconds and I'm good to go. Well, that's not who Tyree Wilson is. And he's trying to still learn the position. He's still trying to learn what he does best. I mean, the thing about it is, so far since he's been in the league, they've put him in multiple different positions, just trying to get him on the field and get some reps. And so at one point they just said, you know what, we need to make sure we figure out what he does best. So he comes up with the sack against Tua last week. I thought that was really good, instinctful. He stuck with the play and, stayed around Tua. And the thing that Tua does quite a bit is put the ball on the ground, and he did. He forced a fumble, which was great opportunity for the Raiders. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come up with it. Those are the kind of plays that need to be made, right? I mean, it's great to get the strip sack, but it's better to come up with the fumble and give the ball back to your defense or offense in a shorter field. And so that's what the Raiders have been missing. When they make a really good play, they can't capitalize on, the whole play. They'll make one good play, they'll get a sack or, a tackle for loss, and then 3rd and 15 will happen. It'll be a penalty and something. And then all of a sudden they get a first down. Not being able to take advantages of the opportunities that they create has been one of the big problems. But I have seen Tyree Wilson continue to develop and get better. And that's all that you can hope for, is that he does continue to grow.
I'll tell you one thing the Raiders defense could do better. They got to hold the line in the fourth quarter. They're taking very close games into the fourth quarter, and right now they're giving up 9.6 points in the fourth quarter on average. And it's making these losses kind of deceptively look lopsided, and they haven't been. What is happening in the fourth quarter?
They're just having breakdowns. They're just not able to finish, and honestly, even going back to Miami, that was the whole game. I mean, they never forced the Dolphins to punt, not one time. Right. And so they put them in position where they can get off the field on third down. And for some reason, they're not able to finish the drive the way that they're supposed to. 3 penalties, as you mentioned before, continued drives, and then just not wrapping up, not completing the play, having a blown coverage, a lot of communication mistakes, especially with the young guys that are in. That's how Jonnu Smith got that super wide open touchdown. It's a lot of little things, Amber, that is leading to one big thing. And you're right. If you're a box score football watcher and you just go and look at the game, 34-19, they got whooped. Not really. It was close. It was close until the end, and then all of a sudden, Miami, ran the ball out of the gym, right, and took it and ran home with it. But that's just that's really the way you can describe this season in a nutshell. They've been so close, but yet so far away from a lot of these games being flipped and having victories and looking a lot different than it is at 2-8.
All right, let's talk about this offense, Q. Did you like what you saw from Scott Turner in the little adjustments?
Yeah, I did. I thought there was a lot to build off of. One, getting the ball to your playmakers and Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, guys like that makes a lot of sense, right? It's good things happen when Brock Bowers gets the ball. I mean, this guy is incredible. Everyone knows he's the number one target for the Raiders, and he still comes up with 13 catches and 126 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that just lets you know how good he really is. So the fact that he didn't just get targeted in the first half and then go away in the second half like we've seen before, I think that was really a good thing. Scott Turner clearly has experience play calling, and it showed. And now they still couldn't run the ball. Right, that was a problem. They got a couple good runs from Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker, but that was really it. I mean, 60 yards total, and 20 of them came from Jacoby Myers on the end around. So you know that they still aren't being able to run the ball, and hopefully that's the wrinkle that you see added to the game this week, where, okay, not only can they pass the ball really well, not only do they get the playmakers involved, now the offensive line is opening up holes for the running backs, whoever that's going to be, Amir Abdullah, Dylan Lobby, or other, because, again, injuries have been the theme for the Raiders all 2024. So, yeah, I do like what I saw from Scott Turner. I'd like to see him expand that a little bit more and maybe take a couple deep shots, as AP said they were called. They just weren't able to execute them.
Yeah, getting Trey Tucker involved would certainly be nice, because we saw that in the preseason, that connection. One positive about this Raiders offense, they converted 57% on third down against the Dolphins. But then they get into the red zone. So they're moving the chains. Then they get into the red zone, they go 1 for 3. What are you not seeing inside the 20? What's failing inside the 20?
They're not throwing the ball into the end zone, right? I mean, it's great to throw the ball short.
Hallelujah. I've been screaming that. How about you throw the ball in the end zone?
Good things happen. You could throw the ball into the end zone to your playmakers, and some good things could happen. But a lot of times they're throwing the ball short and expecting a guy to break a tackle or 2 or 3 and try to score that way. And it's not a good recipe. And it hasn't been a good recipe for the Raiders for some years now. And I don't know what it is when they get to the red zone. It's like, yeah, let's try to throw it short and make this guy break some tackles. No, Jacoby Myers is a big body. Big Mike is back. He's a big body. Brock Bowers can get open in a phone booth. I mean, you've got to be able to throw the rock with confidence into the end zone, and some good things can happen. And, if a bad thing happens here and there, I might have to live with that, just because I want to see the ball thrown into the end zone, because I do believe that the Raiders could score touchdowns that way.
Yeah, the great Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Take a shot in the end zone. All right, nobody's talking much about Brock Bowers' draft mates. Everybody's talking about Brock, understandably so. What is your assessment of the rookie linemen of JPJ and DJ Glaze, what they're doing?
Very, very happy about those guys. Very happy with their production. Are they going to make mistakes? Sure. It's their rookie year. They're going to make mistakes. JPJ obviously was banged up coming out of training camp, didn't get the start when the season started, but him at the center position looks really good. I think that the Raiders have a foundational center for years to come. That's a guy that you should get really excited about. And it's very rare that, the fan base gets fired up about a center. But every day on Raider Nation Radio 920, I have people calling in and saying, man, I love JPJ at that center position. Make sure you keep him there. He's got that nasty. He's got that Wisniewski in him, which, Wisniewski is one of the 25 Pro Football Hall of Fame, semifinalists. So we're hoping that he's able to make it into the Hall along with EA as well. But, he's got that nasty to him, that play through the whistle to him. And he looks like a Raider. And DJ Glaze is a guy who hasn't blinked, Amber. I mean, he got thrown into action in training camp because Thayer Munford got banged up. So it's like, all right, rookie, hey, 4th round pick out of Maryland. Shout out to Maryland. You're in there and you got to do something. Oh, you got Max Crosby going up against you, and he didn't blink. Was it perfect? No. Right? Has it been perfect all season? No, but he hasn't blinked, and he keeps arriving for the challenge, and he keeps stepping up and doing some really good things to let the powers that be, Tom Telesco, Antonio Pierce, everyone who makes decisions know, hey, I'm a guy you can rely on. So I'm very pleased with the first 3 rounds of picks that Tom Telesco had in this past draft. And really, it's been a long time since I've said that in a rookie year for 3 picks that the Raiders have made. But Bowers, home run. JPJ, absolute good player. And then DJ Glaze, same thing. So I'm glad that Telesco made all those selections.
Yeah, DJ Glaze, the Fighting Turtles, we're just built different. It's just something in our blood. All right, finish this sentence. Shout out to Maryland. Let's finish this sentence. The Raiders will win if blank.
They create 2 turnovers. They've got to turn Bo Nix over multiple times and give Gardner Minshew short fields. With Scott Turner's ability to call plays, I think that he could take advantage of a couple short fields and get the Raiders into the end zone as opposed to settling for field goals. But the defense has got to make some plays. Someone's got to step up, make that play on 3rd and 9. Like, I always ask for Max to make that play, right? And I know Max gives everything, and I would never talk bad about him, and I'm not talking bad about him. I don't want anyone to get that twisted. But every once in a while, it's a 3rd and 9, a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, and you just need someone to dig deep and get that play. I need Max Crosby to make that play every once in a while because the team goes as he goes, and he knows that. He wants to be legendary. He needs to make a legendary play to help his team get the ball back or even get into the end zone. I'd love to see that from Mad Max in that defense.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair analysis right there. 1 of 1, Q Myers. We appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much, my friend.
Have you call? You know I'm here.
All right. Thanks a lot, Q. Well, coming up, how the return of one player alone recalibrated the entire Raiders offense. It's One Last Thing next.
Taste is not an option. Taste is everything. 1800, the world's most awarded tequila.
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Oh, set me free. Chains and holding me. No time to sleep. The daylight's coming fast and it's counting on me.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I mark the fleeting seconds glide, I pray to the coming wind. And time like snow never stood around for me. I love every sky I've
Celebrate 65 seasons of Raiders football. Be a part of our legacy with a special edition brick. featuring the exclusive 65th anniversary logo. Get your brick installed at Allegiant Stadium along with a replica for your home or office. Order now and support the Raiders Foundation, benefiting military and veterans, wellness initiatives, and youth development. Secure your place in Raiders history today at RaidersFoundationBricks.com. The Silver and Black Show has been brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders, Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Las Vegas Raiders and the NFL. And by Allegiant, the official airline of the Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights, only at Allegiant.com. Time now for one last thing. The return of Michael Mayer might be the single best thing that's happened to Brock Bowers all year. Here's why. It allows Scott Turner to run 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends on the field. It's what the Raiders intended to do all year, but just couldn't do effectively with Mayer out. Last week, the return of number 87 allowed the Raiders to take 46% of their offensive snaps in 12 personnel versus an average of only 27% in weeks prior. It's no coincidence that Bowers had an offensive rookie of the week type of performance with 126 receiving yards and a touchdown, so Mayer's presence was definitely felt.
It felt good to have him out there. We looked like what I thought we looked like in our 12 personnel package. And I think that was a big part of our offense. And it's going to be a big part of our offense going forward.
The Raiders selected tight ends in back-to-back drafts because they looked at teams like the Ravens, 49ers, and Chiefs, who all ran 12 personnel successfully in recent years. It's a simple equation. One stud tight end is hard enough to defend in the NFL, let alone 2? That's a whole lot of mismatches. So now that the rust is knocked off, could we see even more big games from both tight ends? Let's sure hope so. That'll do it for us. It's Broncos Raiders 105 kickoff from Allegiant. Make sure you get there early, everyone. We'll see you after the game.